Hey, everybody, Double G here with Valks Valley. As you can tell, there is no Brian again. And when we had Conrado on last episode, part of that was because Brian was out. And Conrado was awesome, by the way. We hope to have him on again. You got to hear some nice draft talk, some X's and O's and stuff of that nature. But the Valkyries have a bunch of games coming up, 3 games in 5 days, and Brian is more than likely not going to be able to record until the following week. And I don't, with that many games, and there's a couple of important ones as we talk about early playoff positioning. Who'd have thunk it for this young Valks team? But I didn't want to, leave until next week to talk about the team. So my experiment here is to do a little bit of a game recap for tonight's game against the Atlanta Dream, where the Valkyries went into Atlanta after their worst game of the season and losing to the worst team in the league, the Connecticut Sun, a team that I went to Valhalla and got to see them beat the bumps off of Connecticut earlier this year. The only time that I've seen the Valkyries play live, and it was not even close. And then they go into Connecticut, and the same thing happens to them. But nice bounce back game against Atlanta, who is a really good team. That team could shoot, by the way. They went into Atlanta, won by 2 points, kind of almost scarily gave it up in the end. And one of the games that they've kind of been losing of late, but they actually pulled it out. And Cecilia Zandalicini, she hit the game winner, and then Brittany Griner tried to turn like a 20-foot turnaround at the end that missed and gave the Valkyries the win. So in this experiment, if this works out, I may do another one before next week because of these games in 5 days. But Gigi at bspnmedia.com, if you like these, if these are interesting, if they are fun, shoot me some feedback. But also, I have a question for folks who are watching and listening. You can drop this in the YouTube comments if you're watching on YouTube, or you can email, and we can read some of these responses on air, by the way. What do you think about the Valkyries' chances to make the playoffs after losing Kayla Thornton? Now, if you look at some of the positioning of the teams, and we'll talk about the standings here in a little bit, we're not talking about the race for a top seed in any way. You're talking about the race for 3 games against the Lynx or whatever it is. I think the first week is still 3. It might be 5. I know that they changed the length of the finals this year to 7, best of 7. But you're basically looking, for spots 7 and 8. So do you want to play the Lynx in a short series, or do you want to play the Liberty in a short series? Maybe the Dream can sneak up there. The Valkyries just beat the Dream tonight, so that might be difficult. We'll see how long Brianna Stewart is out. But I'm very interested in what people think and what people really believe, because being an expansion team, I don't think we had super high hopes, though. If you heard the show with Conrado, he thought they were going to be better than most thought. And then secondly, this is the first time that we've actually had to talk about WNBA playoffs, at least in the Bay Area. I'm sure there are some WNBA fans who are following this stuff closely for many, many years. But for us, for Valkyries fans, this is kind of a big deal. So I'm just interested in people's thoughts if you think that they can make the playoffs without Kayla Thornton. So that'll be the big question. If we get some responses, we will read them on the air. I will read them on the air maybe when if I do this again. So drop that in a YouTube comment or in an email. All right, so let's go to the game against Atlanta. So there's one, I guess you could call it a controversy. Something, let's call it a device. Late in the game, Valkyries had the basketball. A lime green highlighter color device gets thrown on the court as I think Veronica Burton had the basketball. Nobody knew what to do. Nothing stopped. The game continued to play until that possession was over. But the ball almost got hit by this lime green device. And I actually felt a little bad for Jacob Toby, who was back announcing the game with Morgan Reagan. He was trying to describe what this thing was while not knowing really what it was. And the camera kept like trying to show it. And someone in the production truck had to have said, guys, like, let's not show this thing. Let's not show this lime green device on television. And in fact, let's not talk about it anymore because it is what we believe to be a sex toy that was thrown onto the court. So add to this craziness of this thing happening, and then all of the stoppages of play late in the game. This is the one thing, like if you're looking at nitpicks of the WNBA, and me being, this is the first real season that I've watched. I've watched every Valkyries game, and I've watched some others. So this is my non-expert opinion, but I think a lot of people agree with me is that they need to figure, like, this is even worse than the NBA as far as the late game stuff is concerned. It just looks like there's not a lot of organization and there's not a lot of leadership with the officials. They can't, I don't think they find podcasts, by the way, but and I'm not being super negative here. I'm just explaining what I see, which is, when they go to the replay, it takes way too long. You can actually see people, I don't know if they're arguing or if they're trying to figure out what to do in these moments, but they take so long. And when you have more than, one or two of these things late in the game, it just extends the game for a very long time. And I think it really hurts you don't actually gain drama. Like sometimes in the NBA, you do gain a little bit of drama because the games are so close. In this case, the game was really close. It was tied for many of these delays, but you can actually see the players and the coaches physically saying, "Hey, let's hurry this. Make a decision. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, let's go." Like, So I think that this is something that they need to figure out for next year. But hey, it's these are growing pains for the league. And they're trying to do a lot with not as many resources as the NBA has at the same time. So I think this is something that can be fixed, though. If I was the commissioner here, it's something that I would sort of circle and go, you know what? This isn't that hard to fix. Let's figure this thing out. Okay, so game's tied as all of this stuff is happening. And Zandalacini, with 3 seconds left, and she was kind of doing this all game long. She would get the screen and she would go right, and she would not do anything really to get back to the middle. She would just go right, and in many cases she would be pushed out of the paint. But I think she's very comfortable taking that little fadeaway 12-footer. And I don't think this shot, the game winner, was a fadeaway, but she did kind of get tall and shoot over her defender. And it kind of bounced around, and it was one of those shots where you're like, oh, it's a tough shot. Doesn't look great. Boom, but it drops, and all of a sudden, Zandalacini is the hero of the night. She actually had a pretty good game as well. I'll get to the box score and give you all of the leaders in the box score in a second. But really strong game for her. She's been fairly up and down since she came back from Eurobasket. And I think before she left for Eurobasket, you were starting to feel like, okay, she's money. And she was money in the first half today. I think she hit like 3 in a very short time span. That helped the Valkyries because they started out really slow. And, this game against Connecticut that I thought was the worst loss by far, they didn't seem to be very comfortable without having Kayla Thornton to be one of the players who could possibly bail them out. And it started this game against the Dream. It very much started like that. And then they brought in Carla Late, and she just started going to the hole, and she started creating some stuff. And I think that helped them get into rhythm. Offensively, 77 to 75 is a good game. Offensively, they were in spurts, they were playing great, and then in spurts they were cold. Like in the fourth quarter, we'll talk about that in a second. So, the Valkyries win the game, and they tie the season series with the Dream. I believe they're tied at one apiece. So we mentioned Kayla's out, and that's the big news of the week. But Monique Billings started. They went with their two bigs. So Temi and Monique both played at the same time. But it's funny because when the Valkyries go double big, it doesn't look the same as when Atlanta goes double big, especially when you have Brittany Griner. It was a little comical watching Monique Billings try and stand tall against Brittany Griner, who's just she's just, not only is she tall, but she's so long, and she understands how to use her body just to move people. And I think Ileana Rupert had to play in that double big lineup in the second half because I believe Monique tweaked her ankle again. So she's had the ankle injury, played a little bit, tweaked it again, and she did not play in the second half as far as I remember. All right, so let's look at the box here. And I think the main thing is, again, the way that they can offensively just play so well in spurts. You know, the game was back and forth. They were tied at halftime. It was 39-39. And there were moments, again, like I said, where Carla kind of got them into rhythm and really sparked their play. Tip Hayes, when she takes that three, that thing seems to go in. And I know she's an aggressive player. She wants to get to the hole, but she shot 3 of 5 from 3 and 3 of 8 from 2, and a couple of missed layups there. But she was their best offensive player by outside of Xander Lucini. She was their best offensive player. When it came to the second half, they go on this big run in the third quarter, and it looks like they're just going to run away with the game. They outscore the Dream 30-17. But if you've watched this Valkyries team, they can run away from some of the teams that are not as good as some of the other teams. But against the Dream, I did not expect them to just continue to run away with this game. Like you'd imagine, the Dream came back. They actually took a lead in the fourth quarter. They outscored the Valkyries 19-8 in the fourth quarter. And I thought, pretty good chance they're going to win this game. Canada, such a sweet shot, had 21 points. Alicia Gray had a rare misfire. She was 2 of 11 shooting, 2 of 6 from 3, and even missed 3 free throws. Not her best game that we've ever seen her play, because I feel like she cooked us last time. And Brittany Griner had a little bit of she didn't really play as much as I thought. I think the Valkyries went small in the second half, and it took her off of the court a little bit. But she only played 20 minutes, and it wasn't like she was in foul trouble. She only had 1 foul. But Hillman could shoot. Like, they just have so many shooters on this team. Caldwell was 3 of 8 from 3. On the Valkyrie side, Tiffany Hayes, she started. She was their leading scorer with 15 from the starters, but Xander Lucini had 18 and 8 rebounds. They were both 3 of 5 from 3. Veronica Burton was 2 of 3 from 3. And Carla was 2 of 2 from 3. I think Kate had 1 as well. Kate only played 3 minutes. Was it 3 minutes? It was no. Kate played 6 minutes, but she had 1 bucket. So the scoring and the offense came from a variety of places. Janelle, again, tough shooting night, 0-4 from 3. She was actually a -8. The only the worst of the starters with plus minus. It was really their bench. Their bench is what kept them in the game and won them the game. Zandalcini +8, Amihir +11. Amihir was very aggressive, and she had 6 points, and also Carla was a +3, and Carla had 12 points herself. She just kind of got things going for them. So now they win this game. You know, they probably alleviated some concern about whether or not you thought, okay, the Sun game was a little bit of foreshadowing to what their season's going to be like without Kayla. But since Kayla went down, I know they beat Dallas, who is, Dallas is playing a lot better, and they're actually, they're actually coming up, and I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but they are. They do have 8 wins, and so they are playing a lot better. The Sparks got Cameron Brink back, and the Sparks I think they were on like a 5-game winning streak, but they lost tonight. So based on how they incorporate Cam back, they could be in this mix for the teams that I was talking about, because you have the Aces are 14-13. The Mystics are 13-13, and the Valkyries are 12-13. So all of those 3 teams are bundled right there for those last 2 spots. If you want to go one spot further up, the Fever are 14-12, just a half a game above the Aces, and then the Dream are 15-11. So I don't imagine that the Valkyries are going to sniff anything above the 7 or 8 slot, but you never know. If they get hot, that could happen. But that is your playoff standing. And so why this matters is because coming up, as I mentioned, this crazy schedule, the Dream, they beat the Dream today, which is the best team that they're going to play in these next 5 days. The Mystics, they play on Thursday in Washington, 4:30 start for Bay Area folks. And then on Friday at Chicago, 4:30 start for Bay Area folks. And then at Las Vegas Sunday, 3 p.m. for Bay Area folks. And so the Mystics and the Aces right above the Valkyries for, this early playoff positioning. And then you have the Chicago Sky and kind of that trap game, because the Sky themselves are 7-17, so not quite in this mix of playoffs. Actually, closer to the Dallas Wings than to the playoffs. So, all right, so that's going to be it on this little mini episode. This game recap: Valkyries beat the Dream 77-75 on a last, not quite last second, but a bucket by Zandalcini with 3 seconds left to give them the win, and it's sort of a crazy end of the game sequence with, again, a lime green highlighter colored device that was thrown on to the court. All right. So again, send me your feedback, gg@bspnmedia.com, or on the YouTube comment on the video. If you believe the Valkyries are going to be able to make the playoffs without Kayla Thornton. Check out the episode that we dropped on Monday with Conrado Pascual. I think people who really enjoy this team and are new fans will appreciate his knowledge. He's been following the league for quite a bit. If you're on YouTube, watch us on YouTube, give us a like. We're trying to drive this channel. We're trying to get some more engagement. We're trying to get some more subscribers. And if you're on the podcast network, BSPN on Apple, if you shoot us a review, 5 stars, we will also read it on the air. So if you want to get your name out there, leave us a review, and we will read that. All right. Thanks for hanging with me as we tried this new experiment of this game recap. We'll see. I probably won't be able to do it Thursday, because I do some other shows on my other channel on Thursday, Fight Game Media, and actually doing this one for the Wrestling Observer website. But Sunday possibility, just because it's the weekend and the Las Vegas game is early, and I'll be able to watch that before Monday. So, all right, thank you for checking us out on the BSPN YouTube, on the BSPN Podcast Network. I am Double G. See you when we see you. Peace out.